Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us 9:30 in the morning. I see a lot of faces I seen tonight. No. So you don't have drinks tonight, yesterday night. So that's okay. So for me, it's a pleasure to introduce Alexis Bonte. I make a short introduction of myself. I'm a VC lawyer and venture coach for 25 years. Startups in all Latin America, US, Hispanic world, and Spain. We help fundraising and matching among investors and startups of technology. Among this world, gaming companies has been one of my expertise. We've been helping them to sell the companies and to go global. And data privacy has been a challenge for those companies because of the revenue model and how they take or collect data from us. How many gamers we have here? Mobile gaming, anything? So we have a couple. So it will be interesting. Yeah. So I will ask Alexis, please. This is a pleasure to have you here today. And please, if you can introduce yourself. You have a big background, and if we have
we'll make it a small introduction. I promise.
Please.
Yeah. No, thank you very much, Manuel, and thank you all for coming. It's going to be a nice, intimate conversation. So jump in with questions. That'll be fun. Now, very quickly, I've been an entrepreneur, investor almost since 1998. So I'm a Web 1.0 kind of entrepreneur. I started with an online travel company called lastminute.com, which was the Expedia of Europe, which was one of the first unicorns there. I was part of the founding team, not a founder. Then, I helped Atomico, which is a big VC fund in Europe, become one of the largest VC funds in Europe. But, last fund is about $800 million.
How many funds Atomico had?
Atomico is now on Fund 7, and I helped build Fund 4 and Fund 5, and now I'm just an LP. I'm also a venture partner at Euraseo, which is a French fund. And I did a video games company called The Republic Labs that I sold to a Swedish group back in 2017. And then we did what you call a roll-up. So that group is called Stillfront. I know co-lead that group, COO and president. And we basically have 23 game studios all over the world. And it's, I think, top 30 game companies in the world and top 6 or 7 in Europe.
Wow. Yeah. So I think he knows what he is going to talk about. So the first question is related to strategic planning in terms of a gaming company looking from the startup side, no? When they are trying to try to be profitable from scratch, and they say, we are going to sell the data of our clients, so, or our users. So when you're doing strategic planning as a startup or as a group, what do you think about how important is data privacy and how you have this in your mind when you're doing this, and how GDPR rules perhaps can limit that revenue model?
So I think you have to take it a step back first and think about what is data privacy, right? For a startup, for a games, for a group, for a tech group. And data privacy is a weapon of mass destruction. That's what it is. It is a weapon of mass destruction for the big tech groups, the big Silicon Valley tech groups that have massive amounts of users, right? If you look at Apple, famously a few years back, Apple, decided to protect your privacy, right? Which means stop sharing your data with Facebook and other groups and all that. Did they do that out of the kindness of their own heart to protect your privacy, or was there another reason for it? The real reason for that was actually to destroy the Facebook business model of performance marketing. So actually, Apple put on its knees a $200 billion industry that it had helped create. And you guess about what industry that is? That's mobile gaming. Mobile gaming was very dependent on performance marketing, and if you were a startup, the model in which you launched your games was very simple. You would be able to advertise on Facebook because you could target the type of users that were going to be interested in your game specifically, because that data was available. And so it was a great model. The problem is Apple and now Google were starting to get, a bit of kind of, attacks from the European Union and all that also on their model, which they take basically a 30% fee. So they said, we're going to go after those advertising dollars that Facebook's got. And so that's the real reason that happened. So now as a startup, it's really hard for you to compete against that, because that massive amount of data that they have about you is becoming a walled garden that they're protecting and not sharing with anyone unless you pay a lot of money.
Wow. So, and we have this new player in the market, like AI. Everyone is talking about AI and how AI is using all the data that this gaming company collects to start directing our marketing or branding for each tailor-made user we have. So you have your branding in your game, and you're just advertising your things you might need. How has the industry is changing or has changed already using the AI, the new AI?
Yes, obviously, most of the AI that you hear about now, the ChatGPTs and all that, they're based on kind of language learning models, LLMs. And LLMs have one point in common: they need a lot of CPUs, basically a lot of computers to work, and they also need a lot of data. Again, who has the most CPUs and who has the most data? Why did ChatGPT do a strategic partnership with Microsoft and all that? It's the big groups. It's Microsoft, it's the Apples, it's the Googles and all that. So that's a massive advantage, again, that they have. And so what's happening is the way we're kind of using it is, think about now you're a game studio, right? And you're a game studio and you're not very big. You have a few 100,000 players or maybe 1 million players, right? And you're going to try and do offers to those players. Let's say you're free to play, and you're going to try and understand, how you can monetize those players and personalize, offers to those players. And you can use AI for that. But how good do you think the quality of your personalization is going to be if you've got 1 million players that you can contrast and all that, versus if you have hundreds of millions? So this is kind of where, so I think this is, again, something that's going to be used by all of the big tech groups that have kind of, all of this data, and they're going to charge you for it.
So, and going back to the regulations a little bit, I'm a lawyer, sorry about that. How GDPR, how you manage GDPR rules when you are a global company in which you are servers in the US, that US is out of that regulation, and you know what is happening in the US with that, and you are an European also group, and you have users in both, and collecting data from those zones, totally different regulations.
Yeah, I think this is the perfect example of a good intent gone bad. I think, we're all going to get diabetes from accepting all of these cookies, on when we're surfing the internet. It's just ridiculous. The user experience is terrible. And you just kind of randomly accept stuff, and you don't really know what you're accepting. So
reject all the things? No, if I reject all things, you won't let me game. So
exactly.
I accept all. Let's go.
Yeah. So it doesn't. So I think it was paved with good intentions, but the implementation was very bad. I think initially it was super complicated for small startups that wanted to be global. If you're a games company, you're global from day one.
Yeah.
Because you're publishing everywhere. So by definition, almost every game startup was in breach of GDPR.
Yeah.
Which was a mess. So for us, it was an opportunity, because my business at Stillfront was to buy lots of small game studios. We have 23 game studios across the world right now. So one of the things that we'd say is, and by the way, don't worry about this GDPR thing, we'll pay lawyers once instead of 22 times, sorry. And so we'll take care of it for you.
Nobody of the government here, no? Or the Spanish government here, or the European?
I really don't care.
We have a terrorist here.
They asked me, because I was asked to testify in the anti-monopoly kind of cases from the European Union with Google and with Apple and all that. And I was told, the thing that you need to do is just, right now, I don't know if you know this, but Apple and Google will charge you 30% of all your revenues from being on their store. And this was very justified at the beginning when they started, because they would help distribute your game. They would get you a lot of free players to your game. Right now, the number of free players that you get when you launch a game on Apple or Google is close to 0. So they're charging 30% for something which is, I mean, I come from browser games, we have payment systems that cost 2%. So that's a real monopoly. So that's what they're trying to break down and they need to focus on. And I think they thought that privacy was a way to maybe help them do that, but the opposite has happened. The walled gardens have become stronger. We are building a walled garden ourselves. We're kind of doing, we're working on doing a stillfront ID so we can have all of the apps, so we can do the cross promotion, so that when we're using AI in one of our games, instead of using BitLife, which has 2 million daily users, and trying to do something, we'll put all of the games together, and we have 50 or 60 million users a month. We have 10 million daily users, so we'll have a larger model.
So let me understand. You say that strong regulations or limitation to data privacy collection is like goes against startups?
Yes.
And goes beyond. Wow.
Correct. Absolutely, 100%.
So
it hurts startups and it helps big groups, unless you break them down or you force them to stop charging extortionate fees for their services.
And this will get worse?
I think there's an opportunity they might get better if, so Apple and Google, they know they're going to lose the 30% charge war on what they're charging for, distributing your app or your game. It's just not just games, by the way, it's any app, right? They know they're going to lose that war. They were kind of stopping, other app stores to be on their app store, and now they're going to be forced to accept the Epic App Store that's going to be on there. That it's going to charge, I think, 15 or 10%. So they're starting progressively to lose that war, but they can lawyer up to delay and delay and delay and delay and delay. So the ruling for them to stop the monopoly practices, I think the first ruling was about 3 years ago, and we're still paying 30%.
So let's talk a little bit about the future of the industry.
Yeah.
What do you think about, I've seen a couple of companies that are raising money at this moment that are looking data, we are the owners of our own data. And so we start monetizing that as a user. So I can sell you the data I want to you, and you pay me for that as a small user. So start tracking that, what data really you have. I have a platform in which the user is the owner of the data.
Yeah.
Actually, he is, but in the fact, he's not. No?
Yeah.
So now you can pay me for that. And every time you use my data for doing something, you can pay me for that. So what do you think about that?
So I'm actually going to revert the question back to you on this one. I'll tell you why. Because, and maybe you can give me the correct legal lawyer answer. I don't think I own my data anymore. I've signed so many terms and conditions from so many companies without reading what it was, that I'm pretty sure that Instagram owns all of my family pictures. Agree. I'm pretty sure that LinkedIn owns all of my business contacts and all that.
You have already
so
said that.
I can't sell what I don't own anymore.
You said you have already said that because you said you sign, agree. So I sign a lot of terms and conditions. I don't know what they say. Yeah. And so you accept that only because you give me an amazing game that I'm addicted to.
Yeah.
So what if a platform with AI and all that stuff come to the market and says, I will give users the power again, like the power of knowing where is your data in real time and monetizing that. Yeah. So for you, it's an opportunity.
There's been some blockchain.
You have to share some revenue with us.
There's been some. No, but I think there's been some blockchain initiatives around that. I think there was a competitor to Twitter. I can't call it X. There was a competitor to Twitter that was done where kind of you own your data, all sort of stuff, and they didn't take off. And you know why? Honestly, because I think people do not care. They just don't care.
So the second plan I have for the future is start sharing only what you want everyone to know of you, and you don't matter about that, and play and agree all the terms and conditions because you don't care about what they are doing with your data.
I mean, do you care what Instagram's doing with your data?
Because I don't share sensitive data.
Exactly. You're just careful about what you share, maybe, and all that. But even people who share everything, they do not care. I mean, the minority, the voiceful minority of people who say, oh, privacy and all that, it's just minuscule.
And
don't
then
care.
they post personal photo on Instagram with
Exactly.
whatever.
They don't care. And by the way, but as a company, I think we have a responsibility to use people's data in a responsible way. So we've contacted all the time by companies who say, wow, Alexis, I think over 2 billion people have installed one of our games. 2 billion. That's a lot of people. There's 3 billion players in the whole world. And so we got a lot of people who say, Alexis, we could monetize that data and sell it and do other things. And we always say no, because we're like, no, we're going to use our data to give a better service to the players. If you're playing one of our games, we're going to use the data that we have for you to, personalize the game for you, personalize the offers, recommend to you another game that we think you'll like, and all that in a way that is useful to you. Because our moral contract with you is that, you're playing one of our games and we're providing you entertainment and quality entertainment. So anything beyond that, where you give us the right to sell your things, like we don't use that.
We have a little more time, so
Yeah.
I'm interested in another part of the business. Is how you choose a gaming company when you're looking for an acquisition. You're buying small studios all over the world.
Yeah.
How is your top 3 things you look in a team or in a gaming company?
So right now our share price is super low, so we're not, we're not buying a lot of companies at
There
the
were
moment.
3 there that want to sell you the company.
Yeah, maybe,
Okay.
but
bye, guys.
No, but not this year. But I think next year we'll be in a position
Okay.
to buy again. So what we look for is experienced teams that really know what they're doing. We look for studios that have gone through ups and downs, because there's a lot of tourists, or less now, but there was a lot of tourists, doing game companies. So we wanted people that really know how to do it, and we're looking for games that are what we call forever franchises. So games that we feel people will play forever. So that means that usually they're games that have an existing audience that are, in many cases already profitable, but they want to get to the next level.
Double click there. Target audience is that don't switch is like older people or not?
No, actually, there's lots of games that people, if you look at a game like Clash of Clans from Supercell, people have been playing that for 7 years, and the average age, I think, is 25 to 35. Our game, one of our biggest games that I mentioned, called BitLife, which is a very simple game, is 5 years old. Average age is, actually younger, 18 to 25,
Okay.
and most of the people have been playing this for a long time. It's a hobby. Games is now a hobby. It's part of your life. 3 billion people play it.
So you stay with you build a full acquisition. You leave the team with a small part of the company.
No, we do full acquisition, 100%, or at worst case, a majority ownership so that we can consolidate. And then usually the way we work to keep the team, engaged and interested is we kind of have an earn-out kind of system.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2 years and then they stay
Yeah,
or they
2
go?
to 3 years. It depends. Honestly, it depends on how much money they make usually.
Okay.
Above a certain amount, I know they're going to leave because they're going to, life is going to be too comfortable and they want to do something else and all that. If it's below a certain amount and they're really passionate about what they do, then they stay. And also, it depends on how it gels. So I'd say half of the founders have left and half of the founders have stayed.
And geographically.
And you plan for that
Okay.
all over the world.
But if you have to say top 3 developers of gaming in the world, places of the world, regions, you can say.
So right now, we're particularly interested in developing areas like basically India and the Middle East, because we think that's the fastest growing markets. So we think game developers there are really interested, or you can be a game developer here in Spain that is able to attract and work with those audiences.
I could stay all the morning doing your questions because I'm a gamer, as I told you. So many thanks for this chat.
Perfect.
It was a pleasure to meet you and give big applause to
Enjoy it.
Alexis.
Thank you.